Hi guys, I'm back with another coaching tutorial. I was asked, well, I asked for suggestions, and I got a few suggestions. Uh, I'm gonna keep like uploading maybe twice a day, maybe 3 times a day, because right now I'm kind of free to do as I want at this point. So, any suggestions that you guys need, or you feel like you would like help with, just like either message me on Discord, at me on Twitter, or something along those lines, and I'll try and get a video about it. If I do not understand that myself, I'm gonna like personally ask a few coaches that I know could answer that question. Ask them to either give me some help regarding it, or maybe get them as like a guest to like go over it and explain them all together. Um, so right, what I want to talk about in this part is what should a coach be doing before, during, and after scrims. So this one kind of like some coaches kind of just think, oh, I've just got to turn up in scrims and yell at my players when they're doing wrong. It's not quite as simple as that. So before scrims, but when I wake up, it's either I'm doing one of two things. I'm watching a VOD that I'm going over in the VOD review prior to the scrim, like of what I want to primarily focus on. So for example, I'll go through a VOD. 1 second, let me just make sure that my mic, yeah. So I'll go through a VOD and let's try explaining this the best way possible. Okay, so I'll go through a VOD. I'll focus on maybe 1 or 2 maps in particular about where I thought that an area was super garbage, basically. So, for an example, Copenhagen's last split was mostly about how we took space, how we abused space. So I'd look at that VOD, looked at like how we use the space, and kind of took that as a primary focus. And I went through the whole map, the whole block, trying to pinpoint those exact spots where we just didn't take space or abuse space in the best possible manner. So that's what I would do. That's the one alternative as to what I would do. Second one that I would normally do is, if I already had that done the night prior, I would focus on like labeling goals for that specific purpose of the scrim. So, for example, I do individual goals and I also do team goals. So one of the individual goals, I'll use Naga as an example. He was very vocal as a DPS player, but almost too vocal. Like it was getting to the point where he was dominating the voice, and his calls weren't like good. They were like cluttering comms, causing a lot of confusion. An example of that was Icon Vol, for example. We had tryouts on off tank. They would be calling a specific target because they were already in the fight, and Naga would come back and scream a target, and he just came back into the fight causing all sorts of confusion about location, target. Everyone was all over the place, and there was no cohesion from there. And an example of a team goal would be ult tracking, for an example. So relying on one person to efficiently ult track is okay at the higher levels, but also at the lower levels, sometimes people get sidetracked. So a goal I would say is all ults that you see at the fight. So your shot caller dies, right? He dies, I don't know, Widow kills him, something, and you guys take a fight. You see ults. As soon as that fight is won or lost, call the ults you saw and just accept them. No arguing, no like, oh, I didn't see it, or oh, are you sure? Like, just accept that that was the call that was made, and they did not have that ultimate, or they have this ultimate, and play around that. Regardless if the ult was used or not, it's better to start somewhere. So another call for that was that reminder that after every fight, win or loss, call ultimates to help the shot caller. Unless the shot caller was like automatically clicking, like he was the last one to die, he saw everything. He's like, okay, they use this, and if you saw something else, just add that in. Don't be scared. Right or wrong, it's better to add something and contribute, and be wrong, and learn from it, than not contribute at all because you're not sure, and you learn nothing. You just learn to be scared. Learn from mistakes rather than not. I'm not saying go out there and make a lot of mistakes, but it's better to call something that doesn't work and the whole team follows, and fix them, rather than calling something that's completely wrong and no one follows it, and all you learn is that your team didn't follow the call, so you don't know if it was good or bad. So those are like the things I do pre anything. Like the thing that I normally focus on before scrims as a team is obviously watching VODs. So in the VODs, make sure that you have something in mind as like a set focus. Every VOD review has something else to focus on, whether that be target focus, team cohesion, how you use the map, key points of the map, compositions, all this sort of stuff, like what worked, what didn't, what do we want to change from that. The VODs, think of something that you can set as a goal, because if you focus on too many things, like as a player, I know from my personal experience, when I was told too many things, I would forget most of them, and I'd maybe remember one or two. So I think it's better you to go through maybe 1, 2, 3 things, hit them on the head, make sure everyone understands, and focus on them really hard for that VOD. And then obviously, when you set the goals prior to the VOD review, after the VODs, just before the scrims start, you can like let everyone understand their own goals for today, or for that week, or however long the goal is set for. Important to add as a goal. Important to add a time frame and like what you expect to improve, so you can like obviously judge it based on the improvements, and maybe they might advance earlier than you expected, and then you can change to a new goal and they feel accomplished. As well as a coach, my goal is just obviously to get better by asking everyone that's better than me. So yeah, making sure that everyone understands the goal. If they don't, then also go through it with them about like show scenarios about like, why are you doing this, why are you doing that. So before I did VODs, focus points 1 to 3, goals. This isn't going to be neat because I don't like typing. Goals, going through goals if needed. Explain time frame and expected improve. And what I mean by expected improvement is, I'm not saying, oh, you don't click heads, you should be like Prophet, click heads more. I'm saying like, so your main tank doesn't take space. So what is it you're looking for him? You're looking for him to understand the map, understand where he can take the map control, and like communicate that. I'm taking X control, I'm taking this control, I'm pushing this point, I need you guys to pressure this point with me. Stuff like that. So those will be like before. Those are like the basics. There's a lot that goes into those things, so don't see it as, oh, I've only got to do 3 things. Like, if you focus on those really hard, they should take up legit most of your morning. So during, now this is the thing that I struggled with until recently. So depending on the role, so the head coach is normally the person that does all the during stuff, making sure that everyone's on the same page, making sure that people are told why they lost fights, in particular. My recent experience of learning the wrong way was, I was legit trying to jam pack so much information into one breakpoint that it was so hard for a player to really follow. So an example of that was I was labeling like every single minor mistake that a player did and why we lost the fight, and it just didn't really help. It just caused a lot of confusion, a lot of too much information in a player's head, too much for them to think about. So you want to try and limit that as much as possible. So the only things that you should be like trying to focus on during a scrim is trying to keep people on the same page. Make sure if needed to remind them of what the goals are. And like why they lost that map in the smallest amount of detail possible. Why did you lose point A? Because I don't know, your main tank jumped in without any support and he died, and then we lost all pressure and we fell back and we couldn't recontest. Point B, we lost the fight. We lost 2 fights that conceded into point B capture. The first was mostly due to our DPS not killing anything. We had no pressure on their tank line. etc., etc. Point 2 was, oh, well, Anna got picked, or something like something along those lines. Make it sure it's small words, making sure that it's a short amount of information, but impactful enough that the small amount is what's what I'm looking for? Very broad. Small words, big broadness. So making sure that you hit every nail on the head, without ranting on for days like I used to. So this is the kind of point where you don't necessarily need to do much. You just need to make sure that they're all on the same page. That you're labeling the ways that they lost, so that maybe they can fix that for the prior round. So say, for example, how did we lose this map? Or say, Koth, for example. How did we lose this point? Well, you guys played really slow, gave them too much space, and we didn't know how to set up when we took point control. If team needs more information, you could be like, okay, so we could have been holding chokes more aggressively when we had point control. We could have set up DPS flanks when we had point control. We could have set up our healers in a different manner when we had point control. Playing around the composition strengths while we had point control. Sorry, I just need to check that my mic, because my mic keeps cutting out. All these things, short and impactful information. I learned that the hard way. I got absolutely destroyed when I showed a head coach how I head coached. I don't have the attributes to be a head coach. I'm too much information. I'm too much analyst. I'm not always just processing every bad scenario that happens in that one map. So I'm more of a assistant coach based staff member. Goals focus, so like not constantly remind them, but say for example, if you remind your main tank to take map control or be more communicative. If he does it one map and then the second map he might just drop off a bit, make sure you like give him a little nudge, like give him a little message like, remember your goals. You don't have to publicly shame them, like, oh, why aren't you doing your goals? Why are you slacking? Like, just give them a little nudge, give them a little message, and be like, yo, remember to focus on your goals. Just not pressure them, but keep the because if you pressure them to do it, they'll just like, oh, I gotta do this. I'm not saying you have to keep doing it, because as a player, they should always be looking to improve themselves. And if the resources are being given to them, they should just absorb it like a sponge. But that's when you know you have like a peaked player, if they don't absorb it like a sponge. If they need to be constantly reminded. If they need to be... They don't learn anything over a course of a time. So say for example, a week you make, I don't know, a Winston take more map control. Or understand the map. If it takes longer than maybe 2-3 weeks for him to even do it on not all the maps, but most maps, then he's either a really slow learner or he just doesn't want to learn. The players will not instantly improve depending on the player, depending on how much work they put in, depending on if they understand it, and obviously depending on how big of a change that is for their playstyle. So if you're asking a non-shot caller to shot call, that's gonna take months. Like that's not a thing you can just bang shot caller. Yeah, focus on those things. So obviously during reminder of goals, PMs. Again, do that in between maps. Don't do it while they're like mid map because it's distracting. And some players don't like that. Reminder of goals. Short and impactful sentences. While, fuck's sake, I spelled that wrong so bad. While when losing points. Maps. Try and keep it short. Try and make it as the least amount of points as possible. So just focus on the main core reason. We didn't have map control. We didn't have the right comp to do what we were planning on doing. Not just like, oh, one DPS blinked into there, he died. One DPS, oh, he didn't frag hard enough, or he missed one clip. Oh, our main tank uses wrong cooldowns. Oh, he didn't have the hold shield. Like, all this stuff is irrelevant. I learned that I learned that the hard way, and I will never do that again because it's too much information for a player to process during a scrim in such a short period of time. Focus on the key points. During, as I said, it's not really a lot, but it's where most of the players will learn. So after. So many coaches do this many different ways, but I'll just go from like what I've done. So one, I would go through the goals, and I would give them like a feedback run based on how they performed, how they performed as a team, and their goal progression. I wouldn't say like, oh, you did this amazing, like, because that's not really good. That doesn't help them. So I would go through maybe a VOD with one of the players, and be like, yo, you did this well today. Look, and show them an example. This is what you did before. This is what you did after. And you compare them, and they'd be like, oh yeah, wow, that's actually like really good of me. And then that's in the back of their mind. So it's constantly reminding them. And if they did something bad, just like show them what they did, and show them what they could have done instead. So goal ranking. In depth. I'll say that. Obviously, I've told you in voice, but I'm just going as like a basic rundown of what I've been through already, so I remember physically because I don't rant on for 10 hours. Goal ranking in depth. Obviously, this is where you kind of like rant to a point. So if you have any specific points for a player that they constantly kept making, so say for example you just picked up a brand new meta and you have no idea how to play it. So this is where you kind of just like Sombra, for an example, the new meta. So Sombra is all about information gathering, all about setting up the team fights, all about setting up where to engage from. So you can go through this with a Sombra player and give them points of reference as to how to play the comp, how to play around strengths of the comp, how to play around weaknesses of the comp, how it should be played. So Sombra, in my opinion, should all be constantly in the backline, constantly communicating about rotations of the enemy team, where the enemy team is, where their supports are, and where you want to engage. So say for example King's Row. You took first point and you're snowballing. Your Sombra should be already in their spawn as soon as you're capping that point. Already in spawn, falling. What are they doing? Are they going on the high ground? Are they looking for an early engage? Are they backing up because they have one back spawn? All this information needs to be processed, because if they're all regrouping going, someone's got back spawn, and you call that they're regrouping back of third point, you can push up, take all the map control, and then you can maybe do like some surprise attack when they're not expecting it. Because they're going to be expecting you to maybe be pushing the payload or something like that. And then Sombra is the point of contact. So say for example, they're walking back up to under bridge on second point King's Row, and Sombra's hiding in what's it called? Tunnels, the train tunnels that you come out of first spawn. And she's like, oh, Den's on first corner. Can we engage on him on the second on a boiler door in 3 seconds? Everyone counts down, engage, and then obviously that's the sort of thing that you need to go through with a player that doesn't understand how to play the role, understand the meta. That's the sort of thing you can do after, because there's a lot more time to go into it, and it's not too much information for them at that point, because they don't have to solely focus on that one massive chunk of information you've given them just before a scrim and the goals on top of it. This is where you can go in depth playstyle or like many things like map control, like anything, game sense related stuff, call it related stuff. Okay, this is scuffed as fuck, but oh well. So and obviously after, like, I upload VODs, talk to players about their goals and stuff, talk to players about any concerns they have with compositions or how they play certain heroes in certain comps. Obviously this is the time where you can go through the VOD more in depth with a microscope. From my perspective, I would go through it with a microscope, maybe like 3 or 4 times a fight, and like draw things that we did wrong, things we should have done, and then like you can maybe upload like little videos, like tips and tricks and stuff, sort of things are like max 10 minutes long for players to watch, like during the downtime, during the end of a scrim, before the VOD review is up. So this is the time where you kind of can be your own style of coach, because it really depends on what you want to focus on. There's no right or wrong after scrims. Mostly it's around about how the scrims went today, any concerns with players, anything that you felt that the player was constantly making mistakes on that wasn't a part of their goals, or was a part of a hero change or a meta change. I think I covered basically everything from a basic standpoint. As I say, any questions or anything you don't understand, just message me. I'm free at the moment, basically 24/7 until I hear such news. So, yeah, retweet this if you got to the end. Helps spread the word, and obviously helps a lot of coaches that aren't in the individual Discord that I'm in now. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. I hope it helped. As I say, any questions, just message me. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.